current former snipers of Reddit, what do movies misrepresent about sniping? Being a sniper essentially boils down to your being incredibly uncomfortable at all times. You should learn to love being cold, wet, and generally having an overall terrible quality of life while you're operating. Firstly, physically getting to the objective is absolutely brutal, and is probably the worst part of the job. Often you'll be laden down with like 200+ pounds of gear and specialized equipment, including water, food, ammunition, weapons, and radios batteries, which you'll have to carry silently through the night for several miles in the worst terrain you can find before you ever even get to the office to work. Once you spend however many hours, days suffering while getting there, you'll have to set up a hide site for your team. There are a ton of variations on splitting up hide sites, different hide styles that you may feel compelled to use depending on the situation. You'll probably want to get your hide built and loaded before the sun comes up, or you're going to have a bad time. Most media portrays snipers as working alone or in pairs, at most, but real-world sniper teams are usually 6-8 guys switching out team roles for the duration of the mission. Certain aspects of team composition equipment will vary from branch to branch and between units, but most teams should include a team leader, assistant team leader, machine gunner, radio operator, a corpsman medic, a slackman flex spot, unless your team leader is trash and doesn't train his guys. Everyone in the team should confidently be able to take over anyone's job at any point and continue operating. Everyone should also know how to use every weapon in the team, regardless of their own assigned billet. Other shooters spotters can be added if you need more bodies, but the general goal is to maintain as small a footprint as possible out in the landscape. Often, it would be at the team leader's discretion how he wished to distribute his team and their loadouts. Obviously the situation will dictate this to a degree, as well, and you may swap out weapons equipment depending on what you expect to encounter engage. Most media also tends to leave out how meticulous snipers are when they leave their hide sites. An enormous amount of effort is put into not leaving behind target indicators that could possibly get your teammates killed or injured, or potentially poison the well for operating in that area in the future. Nobody will ever know a decent sniper team was operating in the area if they do everything right. Source USMC 0311, 0317, 2010 to 2015. The boredom. It's a little like golf. Lots of practice and repetition. On the other hand, you get really good at estimating wind speed, distance, and elevation. Having a good spotter kills time. Lots of Archer and Super Troopers references. Lots of movie quotes. I bet the Archer quote is always big whoop. I'm spooning a bar at 50 calories. I could kill a building. Not a qualified sniper but former Marine grunt. Star. Surveillance and target acquisition. Platoon is not nearly as glorious as people think it is. Actually, shooting targets is a fairly small part of their overall skill set. Their primary mission is recon and observation. The reality of sniping is less waiting around to shoot an HVT. The reality is usually you snoop your way into an observation post under cover of darkness. Build a hide that you must remain almost completely still in 99% of the time. Crapping and pee in plastic bags and making sure you leave no trash behind to give the enemy any idea you were ever there. Then after a few days of this crap existence, you quietly and sneakily break down your hide to snoop your way back out. Now that being said, I knew a few dudes when I was in, and there are well-known stories about snipers stacking some serious bodies, but those guys are generally the exception, not the rule. This guy gets it. 8541. 3/5 star. Just about every movie, save a few. What people don't realize is there is math involved at long distances. Having to calculate between distance, wind, velocity of the round, movement of the target. I am not a sniper, but I was a rifleman. Example of a range calculation. Target range equals target height in meters x 1000 size of object in mildits on the scope. Say an average male, 1.7 m, appears to be 2 mildits high in the reticle. He is 850 meters away. Then there's bullet drop compensation. Bullets travel in an arc. Typically at ranges past 350 meters you want to aim higher than the target. Once knowing the range, you generally refer to a pre-registered chart for that weapon system. We cannot forget angle compensation for shooting at targets up and or down a hill. And in rare situations air density, pressure, and temperature can affect the path and range of a round. Source: 0311 Rifleman. According to Eric Haney, sniper and Delta Force, one of two things can psychologically happen to a sniper. 1. You become emotionally attached to your target after watching them for hours and can't pull the trigger when the time comes. 2. The power of watching a person dissolve into a cloud of red mist makes you feel powerful, and you want to go on a shooting spree. His book is one heck of a read. Usually in fiction, the sniper is either alone or is with a spotter that is less experienced. In reality, the spotter is usually the more experienced in team. The spotter chooses the target and does calculations to account for distance, atmospheric conditions, etc. Does all the work, someone else gets the credit. JK. Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm not a sniper, but I am a long-range shooter. When you're running big calibers and you send a round, the recoil is going to make you lose the view in the scope. Rarely are you gonna watch the round impact through the scope. Don't have an exact quote, but it's from Howard Wasdin in his book, talking about being a sniper in Somalia. He was protecting some helicopters coming and grabbing suspects, and saw someone come around a building with an RPG, and ended up putting a round in the guy's face. He made it a point to say that in movies the bullets always knock him over, but in real life the bullet sucks them in. Also, back at base, when everyone was congratulating him on protecting M and getting a headshot, he made sure not to tell them that he wasn't aiming for his head. You should have gone for the head, launch his RPG. It takes a great deal more patience. A couple minutes of spotting target in film is almost always a couple hours eye roll. You have to nearly meditate, but be ready to act at a moment's notice. Excitement is the enemy. I see calm rules the day. You can do everything right and still miss, especially at a great distance or when wind is active. Doubly so if both are factors. Spotters are a part of it, whereas in film the lone wolf is the frequently communicated image. Even if you are content to do the job, erasing life can wear on you, because rarely if ever in modern day are you fighting a war that involves your nation's very survival, as was the case in past wars. Now you're just punching tickets in most cases. Unless you lack humanity, it's not enjoyable. You don't pull triggers, you squeeze them. It's boring, punctuated by brief time passage so intense it feels like you age years. Whoa. Best wishes to you. I can't speak from personal experience, but my friend was a sniper in the Canadian Army. According to him, it requires a lot of math. So much so that many snipers carry a pen and notepad with them a lot. Less pen and notepad and more schematics and tables tbh. Wait a second. This is being asked on the 55th anniversary of the JFK assassination. Is someone trying to flush out the grassy knoll guy? Dang it, he's onto us. Not a sniper or military member, but I don't think they ever show the actors wearing diapers because they can't get up to take a pee when sneaking along in ghillie. Snipers almost never see any action. They mostly wait around, even in active war zones. The movies make it look like non-stop action, but they mostly just sit and wait and smoke and eat chow and wait more. Typical military hurry up and wait. My dad used to be a sniper, and he told me when spotters say 2 clicks to the movies tend to actually calibrate the scope where it clicks twice, but that would mean they've gone too far that direction. Nice tip. I was never a sniper but worked with them a lot. This is from an American perspective and the war on terror. Everyone seems to focus on the modern sniper as this precision shot guy, and there is that aspect to them. But to me, working with them, it seemed like much more of their time and energy was spent on a reconnaissance role, especially with the proliferation of IEDs in this war. Basically, have a sniper team or squad set up an observation point on a ridge somewhere, watching over a particular stretch of road where IEDs have been common or you have intel one might be laid. Sniper team scouts that stretch of road from their OP and maybe they see the team go to place the IED. Then they can call RT in on that position. And you can apply to this to other actions. Scouting an area where insurgents frequently set up ambushes. See if you catch them while setting up. Providing overwatch for an infantry platoon as it patrols an opposing ridgeline or village, etc etc. I have never heard any other soldiers say this, but one of our recon platoons and co's once mentioned a saying that a sniper's most powerful weapon is his radio. IDK if that is actually a common saying within the scout sniper community or not, lol. but in my observational experience it really rung true. Long-range shooter environment hunter from way back in the day. The depiction of snipers yanking the trigger, their body movement, the gun twisting jumping is wholly not the type of real movements for a perfected shot. The gun must move from its recoil, perhaps back and up a little bit, but any other movements are just baloney, and would cause a miss for a shot fired at any longer distant target. Yes, I've made the mistake of moving too much on a trigger pull. I would recommend Marine Sniper, 93 Confirmed Kills, a book about Carlos Hathcock. Very interesting and dark in some places, but that's the way it is. Also, are you looking for anything in particular or just movies that frick crap up? Just misrepresentations. Sort of relevant. Heard from one of my recruit trainers that if you hear a gunshot from long range, you shouldn't panic. The sniper already missed. Because the bullet travels faster than sound, the first thing you hear is the impact of the round striking something, then the gunshot. My sniper section leader loved to say snipers wear diapers. While I wasn't exactly busting out the huggies, thank frick I never needed to. Just remember, everybody poops. Enjoy that 2-week SKT. Small kill team, suckers. Also, any of those stupid butt stories about snipers seeing tears in the eyes of victims from 1,000 yards away right before they start landing headshots against ISIS, Taliban, whatever we're fighting are super bulls. Your scope isn't that nice. Retired SWAT sniper here. Just a few off the top of my head. The spot with the best view is always on top of or very near an ant bed. If the ants have the day off, expect mosquitoes, biting flies, etc. You're there for hours or days, hot or cold. Sometimes you have to get up and move quickly after laying up for a very long time, and you're sore as heck and legs are probably asleep. You might fall back down and look like a dumbass. Movies, games, ignore bathroom issues. Your ghillie suit stinks and is full of burrs. Roaming dogs give your spot away. Inevitably, your hide requires crawling a long way on your belly, not hands and knees, but flat out, pulling with fingers and toes. Dirt is everywhere. It's hard to hide and keep your bullet path free of foliage obstruction all at the same time. You carry a lot of crap, and you have to collect all of it when you move. Don't run out of anything like water or radio batteries, because resupply will give you away. In some deserts, you'll encounter walking cactus. It sucks. If you have allergies, you'll be crawling 400 yards through whatever's pollinating at the time. Oh, and what everyone else said about wind, temperature, humidity, vertical angles, and zero. Anecdote, but my grandma's brother was special forces back home. He said his favorite was sniper training. He mentioned that being a sniper takes a certain kind of individual. I know he's seen combat, but he's never told me much. My buddy was spec ops in the army, said he passed on sniper school because it seemed too personal. His explanation was in a firefight, you're spray and pray at someone spraying and praying at you. A sniper though, you're looking at your target, you see their face and you kill them. That's got to weigh on you after a while. I'm not and I have never been a sniper, but my grandfather was in Korea. He watched a guy for a week and learned his habits, etc. He knew that the guy was going down to the river to pray and planned to kill him. But on the day he began thinking of all the things he was going to take away from him and the people he would be leaving behind. On that day he didn't pull the trigger, but the next day he came down to the river to pray and didn't leave the riverbed alive. According to a family friend who's been a SEAL sniper since 2003, when you hit someone with a larger caliber .50 .338, you look for the spray mist of blood that comes up. Everyone is right about the math in earlier comments. Ammunition being selected, sometimes even hand loaded, the spin of the earth, the waiting and waiting and waiting. The movies don't show the tension, the thrill, or the light intakes of breath while watching your target and waiting till exactly the right moment to press the trigger and buy that item on eBay with 1 second remaining. One thing I enjoyed about long gun work is training as a spotter to see trace, or the ripples in the air from the bullet path. It's pretty important for coaching your shooter and identifying where the bullet went. I don't recall seeing any accurate depiction of that in film, other than in The Matrix, and only for dramatic effect. I'm by no means an expert on sniping. I trained in it for a time and enjoyed it. Had a lot of respect for the repetition and discipline it took to get good. There's a lot of pride when you hit a small target at long range, using a precise weapon. Film tends to underestimate the time investment and discipline required to get good at a skill like that. Not anything remotely close to a sniper, but I shot a long gun once. The biggest lesson for me was that unlike in Hollywood, you shouldn't put your eye so close to the scope. Rather, it's always a few inches away. I'm so glad I wore glasses or have some sort of eye protection, or else I'd be blind in one eye. Scope bite. The best way to snipe is not to spend countless hours sitting still and silent waiting for the perfect shot. The best way to snipe is to jump off buildings doing a 360 motion while quick-scoping offensively. Spoken like true champion. To those current former snipers, is the movie trope that you have to have your mouth open when firing a really powerful rifle realistic? The rationale given is that keeping the mouth allows the pressure in your ears to equalize with the pressure outside when the rifle is fired. Most guys in the community are not what you might expect. Extreme patience and intelligence are key aspects to the job, so the guys who are good at it are usually quiet thinking types with extreme levels of will and determination. Not to be confused as beta by any means, but not brute force types either. A lot of my old buddies are just physically fit nerds really. I can't count the number of hours spent talking about World of Warcraft while waiting to infill or during training heights. One thing film does get correct is how close the teammates are. It's definitely a family. The decision to ask my now wife to marry me was made in a hide site with my spotter. Training is fun, but dope collection is pretty dang boring. Hours and hours through days, weeks and months during all types of weather and lighting, just shooting rounds at different distances to see the way the ammo and weapon performs for future reference and meticulously recording information. The math involved is not as difficult as it's made out to be and is often repetitious. You don't have to be a perfect shooter, just perfectly consistent when inputting data, acquiring holding side picture, squeezing trigger and follow through. Consistency equals accuracy, but a consistent shooter with textbook form is even more deadly. Source 13 years and counting. Fun fact. Every one of those memory games and what is different between these two pictures is a gauge of how good of a sniper you'll make. Dang, I missed my calling. My stepdad is a former sniper who spent several years deployed. I asked him for his answer and he said the biggest thing they don't show correctly is the physical stress. In movies, the guy just shows up, sets up, takes the shot and leaves. He said they don't show how they have to sit there, completely still, for hours on end. An example he gave was one time having to wait 7.5 hours in position, and then getting told to stand down. My stepdad did never miss a shot in the field. He did get seen once, though, and have to bail out with his spotter very quickly. My old roommate was a special forces sniper. He told me a few things. 1. Training for control is incredibly tedious and takes a very long time. For example, pulling the trigger causes the rifle to shake a little bit, so they required him to initially put a small dowel rod in the barrel with a quarter balanced on the end and pull the trigger 100 times without letting the quarter fall off. They made this progressively harder by increasing the length of the dowel rod and by decreasing the size of the coin to a dime. 2. The army purposefully selects people with sociopathic tendencies for high-stress positions like being a sniper so that they don't hesitate on ethically questionable situations. It's dark, but it's a necessary evil. It takes way more effort to cop all the hippobeast brands. You need to snipe the drops or they'll sell out in seconds. Not to mention the crazy bots people use. The world is against you. Math and more math. You don't just point and shoot, there are enough calculations and variables going on to make Bill Nye vomit. Good friend of mine was a SWAT sniper. It was mostly racing into a tactical position then just having a nice view of some idiot eventually surrendering. Only a few good sniper movies out there, so how would Enemy at the Gates rate on realism? Shooting itself gets boring after a while. Only so many watermelons and TVs you can make go boom before you start looking for goofy stuff to go boom. They leave out the part about how you can trade pictures with your rifle for just about anything. I once had a cook offer me a box of ice cream to let him take pictures with my M24 to send home. It was delicious. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.